Well, good morning everyone. Welcome back to the cabin. It's actually breakfast time and it's dark today because it's overcast, but nonetheless I'm going to eat this breakfast and then I'm going to get out and probably start trying to find some limbs that I can shave the bark off for the post for the handrail. But glad you guys had time to stop by and hang out with me a little bit. Let me get this, these eggs and sausage. Let me get this ate up, and then we'll get outside and we'll talk about some things that's going on up here at the cabin. We're standing on the back side, or the back 40, I should say. No, just teasing. Behind the sawmill and the little tiny house. This is the area that we're clearing off for the new buildings. And like I had said in previous buildings, he's going to level this off. He's going to take a lot of dirt from up here. He's going to move it over there. That'll create a small bank up here, but that's okay. I'm still not sure whether I need to go ahead and move that slab wood where he can take down some more of that. But anyway, we're going to transfer that over into this area. It'll still have some slope because it's so steep, but it will take care of a lot of the steepness that's already here. Now my plan is to put my buildings, the front part of the buildings, on a concrete footer that I'll put up in the front of the building, but then the back of the building will be built on stilts, just like pretty much I've done everything else and how they do a lot of things around here. But anyway, that remains to be seen whether or not I move that. But he made really quick work of pulling those stumps, and this is pretty much ready to start digging and moving and kind of getting this set up, figuring out how it's going to drain, and getting it set up for those buildings. So I'm certainly excited about getting this started. Of course, you know, this is a couple of year project right here with these three buildings that are going on, but the first one that we're going to start on is the sawmill building because we need to keep it running. And I had a guy that contacted me that I used to work with who brought me a load of poplar logs. The smallest one is probably 14 inches in diameter and the largest one is probably 22, maybe 24, but he had a dump truck full of poplar logs and he wanted $100 for them. They're just clearing some property, needed to get rid of them, and I can certainly use them, so that's a really good start on the 2x10s for the building. But he said he probably was going to have 3 or 4 more loads of them, so anytime I can get a dump truck, $100 dump truck full of logs, I'll take them any and all day, every day. But yeah, he brought that load and I've got it down there where you turn to come up the driveway, because I couldn't bring them up here because they would just be in the way and we would have to move them all the time. So once he starts and kind of gets this how it's going to be, then you know I can start stockpiling things back around where we don't have to move and shift things and kind of put them where they're going to be. But yeah, I'm excited about getting this going. I'm excited about that load of logs. I tell you what, God is really good, because I was walking around the property looking at trees that I was thinking about taking, you know, harvesting, select cut for these new buildings. And then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, I get a text. And I walk over there and look at it and said, hey, can you use any logs? And I'm like, absolutely. And then that one thing led to another, and that's what it is. I've also got a couple of trees that have blown down last year that are down here below the camera that I'll have to clear a little bit of a roadway to get up to them, but they're huge, big, tall, yellow pine trees that I'll be able to get a lot of lumber out of. Now what my plan is to use the poplar for framing, and then use the pine on the outside, because I think that the pine, not only does it look better, especially when you burn it, kind of like the cabin and everything else I've done around here, but I think that it lasts longer, you know, as an exterior wood. But anyway, let's go up here where that Widowmaker was, where Jonathan came up and pushed it over and made quick work of it. Well, I know that you can see that pine in the background. That is actually a yellow pine that was up here on the bank, and it basically doesn't have any branches on it with any greenery, for that matter, until about the last 15 or 20 feet up from the top. And when it would snow heavily, the tree would lean or bend over. And it was actually leaning over that cabin from its original position. It was probably 15 feet hanging over, because it had already arched, and if we were to have got any more snow like they were talking about, it would have come down on the cabin if it had got any heavier. Because honestly, I was really concerned, because before Jonathan came up here, well, remember I said something about hooking. I had the cable pulled through the woods, and I was going to hook it up to the tractor and try to pull it back in that direction, or at least hook to it, pull any tension that I could, and just leave the tractor sitting there. And then I had some guy wrote a comment, said that he put a 12,000 winch on his tractor, and he was actually able to use something like that. And that's a good idea. Of course, I know that they're quite expensive, so I probably don't see myself getting one of those, because normally I'm able to do what I need to do with the tractor. It's just in the wintertime it's kind of slick. And that was primarily one lone tree that in bad conditions would pose a threat to the cabin. I did go up, and I probably haven't checked them all because there are so many, but I've been looking at the rest of the pine trees that may pose a future threat, and a lot of them are leaning in the opposite direction, so I'm not going to be too worried about them, but I will take them down, because some of them are fairly good size right now, so if I go ahead and take them down, it'll allow the other trees a chance to grow where they don't rob the sunlight from them. The ones that don't, uproot every time there's a storm or wind or snow or something like that. So, and then I can also use the lumber. But the yellow pines, they really scare me. I don't know if you have any where you're at, but here they're pretty destructive when they fall. They generally take others down with them, or they may break off halfway up, and then, like, I had a couple that I filmed. You could actually go back some. When I come home from work one day, I had one that was broke off about 40 feet up and hanging directly over the driveway, and I had to throw a string across that to pull a rope up to pull my cable up. And I finally got the cable hooked to it and was able to get it down. But yeah, they really scare me. And I've got two more that are in the woods like that are broken off 20 or 30 feet up, with the other portion hung up in some other trees that I'm going to have to take down so that they don't fall on anybody. But Jonathan, I tell you what, he made quick work of that. I called him and I told him, I said, hey, I know that this is your day off, and that you don't plan on, because it was nasty. You probably don't plan on doing anything, but I said, but I have a tree that's just about to fall on the cabin. He said, I'll be right over. So he came over, took that excavator, he backed up there. He said, I don't even think you need to cut it. He said, I kind of like pushing it, I'd like to push it in this direction. I said, go ahead. So he just backed up there, and with that excavator, just gave it a couple of nudges, and down it went. And then he filled that hole up for me, and made really nice work of it. And then that tree down there, there's probably probably 3 good logs in it that I can get and use for the cabin or some of the other structures. And then those branches, some of those I'll be able to use those for posts on the front porch handrail. But yeah, I'm certainly glad that that excavator was sitting up here, because that would have made a nasty job to have to try to climb up in that wet, slick snow up on the ladder to get the cable in there, sawing it, trying to keep it from falling on the cabin. But Jonathan knows what he's doing, so he told me to just stand back and watch, so that's what I did. Let's go on up here to the kitchen, because I've got a surprise for you. Well, my son has come through again. You know, he's a real goober. If I didn't love him, I'd probably have to love him, because I tell you what, every time I turn around, the boy is getting me something new to work with. And this just happens to be a new skill saw. We have the Matebo that has the broken guard that I do need to send off, but I've just been so busy keep using it, I just, you know, couldn't really part with it. Of course, then he got me for my birthday, he got me that new rear handled skill saw, which I really like, because I'll tell you what, if you've been watching any of the videos, that thing will just chew through the wood. It is a beast. But this right here, I think it is a 9 amp hour battery operated DeWalt 7 1/4 skill saw. So let's go ahead. He called me and goes, "Hey, I got you something for Christmas." I'm like, we just had Christmas, you know. And I was thinking, you talking about next Christmas, you know? Anyway, he said, I was watching the video, and he said, I heard you say something. He said, so I decided to go ahead and get you another present. Okay, well, Patrick, up here at the Outpost, Christmas is every day. Okay, so don't forget that. And no, I'm just teasing. But anyway, yeah, he just, you know, he surprises me all the time, and he comes to, I know he's trying to make it easier on me up here to work on, or, you know, do my work. And I just appreciate, you know, the things that he does. And I'll tell you what, let's open this up here and see what this puppy looks like. Alright folks, it looks like we've got a nice case for it. Yeah, a really nice case. It looks like we have another charger. Get to the saw. There's the saw. My goodness. Down here in the bottom, here's a new DeWalt blade. Wow. Okay. And then over here, I assume we have the battery. Oh yeah, there it is. Let's see if it's got any kind of a charge on it. I'll tell you what, I would have never believed a couple of years ago at the advancements that they've made in the technology of the battery operated tools. Well, you know, we can send a man to the moon, but we can't even make a package that can open. There we go. There we go. See if it's got any juice on it. And it's got 1 bar. There we go. A nice saw. Yeah, he remembered me saying that I wish that thing was on the right hand side, because I just got so used to doing that. But the other saw is not really a problem, because, you know, I can see on the left hand side. But yeah, that's really cool. So guys, I've got another addition to my cordless set of tools, and this should come in really handy, especially now I don't have to worry about you know, using this for something lighter duty, because that other one, you know, is for basically framing. This one right here will come in handy for other things because it's a lot lighter. Now, I say it's a lot lighter. Honestly, I believe the Matebo is lighter. That's probably due, in fact, to this battery right here, because the battery does weigh. Yeah, they're probably the same now. This battery does weigh a lot because the Matebo battery is not that big. But anyway, yeah, I'm happy that he got that. That's certainly going to come in handy, and I'll be able to get a good start on those buildings with all of these really nice tools. So Patrick, again, thank you so much for thinking about your dad up here, and the daily activities that I have and trying to make things easier on me for making videos, you know, not only building but making the videos for you guys to watch. So, but anyway, Patrick, thank you so much. Love you. And he should be coming up here pretty soon. I asked him, he said he was trying to get some dates cleared where he could be up here. I said, well, be sure and let me know in advance. That way I can plan, you know, on what we're going to do up here. But yep, it shouldn't be long, and he'll be back up here, and we'll be slinging some nails and sawdust somewhere. So Patrick, I really do appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Love you much, and you're still a goober. Well, folks, this is not quite an arrowhead. It's more like a small spear point, and very sharp. But I used to spend a lot of time hunting arrowheads, and I would go out to the garden after it rained, you know, after you would till it up, and then it would rain, and the rain would kind of wash off in certain spots. These type relics that you could make them easily spotted, and you could find those in the dirt. And I used to spend hours just walking around out there picking. I found some really good arrowheads too. They're packed up somewhere. I've got a bag of them. I'll show them to you as I slowly begin to unpack things and kind of get settled in here. But yeah, this, you know, it's really funny that you can take a rock basically like this, and that you can take a deer horn, that's what they used to use mainly, and that you could punch out, okay, and actually get this stone, work this stone down to another tool that could actually be used. And I'll tell you, it's pretty thick too. Look at that. Look how thick that is. And then how wide it is. And then I don't know if you can tell, but it's got a serrated edge on both sides. And I could probably use that to skin with right now. But you know, this is what they used to hunt with back in the day. And you know, things like this, not only are they fun to uncover and unearth and find them, you know, it's kind of like finding a treasure, but you know, it's to be, you know, I respect those people because they were actually able to take nothing and make something out of it that was useful. You know, that's just like I'm trying to do up here. Like that slab wood is basically useless unless you find a way to use it and make it useful. I say useless, you know, it can always be burned as wood, which is useful. But you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, I really, in the different types of stone, now in this area, if I'm not mistaken, they used a lot of what they call black chert to make rocks out, or to make their weapons out of, the arrowheads and things like that. I've got some that look like they're made out of quartz. I've got a lot of black ones. This one happens to be gray, but it seems like it's the same type of material. Not the quartz, but the black and this gray right here seem like they're the same material. Maybe one's just a little bit lighter than the other one. But anyway, yeah, it's amazing the things that they could make with nothing, basically. A deer horn and a rock. Okay, it's amazing the things that they could make. But anyway, yeah, as soon as I find those others and get them unpacked, as I settle in here, I'll show you more of the arrowheads that I found. But I tell you what, just getting around out in the woods, kicking around, you never know what you're going to find. It could be something that's been there for 100 years, 200, 300, 500. You know, you just never know. Sometimes things are preserved really well in the dirt, you know, and things like that, just like fossils that they have found that may have been in, you know, like, well, what was that movie that where, and you know, don't put it past that actually happening, but that movie where they found that mosquito in some resin. Okay, the resin had actually petrified it, and the DNA that they were able to extract from that, because it was basically like frozen in time. So it's amazing the things that you can find outside if you just get out there and pilfer around a little bit. But anyway, let's see if we can answer some comments. I got one person that wrote, that was a near miss for Smokey. That must have been intense. And actually it was. I'll tell you, when I seen him start to make a move to jump, I'm thinking, no, please don't. You know, because I knew that water was at least up chest level. This was after the big snow. If you didn't watch the video, Smokey took a dive in the creek and actually went underneath the culvert, which is nothing basically other than a gas tank, one of the old metal gas tanks that was actually pulled out of the ground and replaced with the plastic ones that they're using today, and had the ends cut out and just rolled over in the creek and backfilled over on top of that. But when I seen him start to make that move, I'm thinking, oh no, please don't. And he just jumped right in. Of course, the water was just swift, you know, it was just rushing. And then all of a sudden, after he dove in and he came up, he was gone. It just drove him right up underneath inside that culvert. And I thought, I know that there's wire on the other side to keep the cattle from coming through, which belonged to my neighbor, which is the property that I used to own. And the other cabin that I had built about a half-mile down the road. But it washed him in down there, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, oh no, I'm probably going to get hypothermia when I jump in to get him, you know, because like I said, it's going to be up at least chest deep, and it was cold that day. And I just, you know, I was beginning to freak out because I didn't know, you know, what was going to happen. And I got down there and I looked up underneath on the side of the bank just enough to see in there, and he was up against some of that debris, and it was washing him around the corner. Of course, it turned him to where his tail end was going out the other side, and as soon as he got free from that, I mean, his front paws were working like this, and he was digging, he was treading water, okay? And slowly he began to make his way toward the bank. And luckily it wasn't rushing any faster than that, and slowly, and he got one front paw hooked on a tree root, and then he got a hind leg hooked on the tree root, and he's able to crawl out. But as soon as he got out, this is the funny thing, as soon as he got out, it was all playtime to him, because he just shook off real good and just took off and just starts bounding like a deer, you know, him and Dolly running, you know, throwing sticks up in the air and chasing after each other like it never happened. And you know, it was probably, oh, I don't know, around freezing, you know, and then that water was a whole lot colder, you know, and it was moving fast. But, you know, to them, it doesn't matter if it's the dead of summer or the dead of winter. They'll jump in that creek and have the biggest time and play like there's no change. But anyway, yeah, that I thought to myself that was going to be a near miss, but no, he's all right, doing well, and he's not afraid of the creek despite what happened. Then I have another person comment that says, boy, Jonathan sure made quick work of that tree. Amazing, huh? Yes, it is. I'll tell you. You know, and there's something else too. A piece of machinery is good in itself and can do what it can do. But when you get an operator behind the controls, a lot of times a machine can do more than what we think that they could do. I don't know if you remember watching him down here. He had that thing up on the nose on the tracks, rocking some of those stumps to get them out where other people may have sat there and dug and dug and dug. But I mean, he knows how to operate that machinery, and just, you know, having someone like that to be able to operate a piece of machinery that you rent or hire to do a job makes all the difference, not only in the time that you're going to get it done, but the amount of money that you're going to spend in the end to get it done. Jonathan would rather go ahead and get the job done and move on to another job, as opposed to, you know, taking it easy and sitting around and kind of, you know, milking the time clock, so to speak. But anyway, yeah, I'm certainly glad that he was available, that he was off of work, because we were expecting more snow. It's supposed to be like another 6 to 7 inches, but it didn't do nothing but rain. Rain all night long. It was supposed to snow all night long. But I guess that we got a little bit of a heat wave came through, and it wasn't cold enough for it to snow, and it rained. But yeah, I'm certainly glad that he got that out of there, even though we didn't know what was going to happen. But it was a threat to the cabin, and it needed to come down. Had some more comments about the backdrop of the cabin against all that white. Really made it look cool and cozy. And I do have to agree, when everything turned white, the cabin really stood out and really popped, especially with all the burned wood that I put on it. I was thinking, yeah, you know, it makes a great picture. But he said, man, the cabin sure does look beautiful with the snowy background. I have to agree, it did. Then I had some comments about the curtains, and I was wondering about the women that watch this, thinking, you know, that's nothing but a man cave because everything is masculine. Well, you know, I have to say, it's been carved out of the side of this mountain up here, and I think that the woods basically are masculine, you know, in a sense. But you know, I've tried to take everything up here, use it, re-engineer it, and try to, you know, use what I could with the natural resources that I have in order to not only save money, but to be creative, you know, and to try to use as much as possible the things that I could do and make up here. Just like, you know, a lot of the furniture that I had when I lived in town, I'm getting rid of that because all of the furniture is going to be homemade in here, with the exception of the couch that I put in the entertainment room there. Probably I'll get some sort of a lazy boy that I'll sit in and get rid of this old black chair that I've got. And let's see what else. The desk that I'm editing from, I'm going to make a live edge desk over there, and I'm going to take those maple stumps out there, make some end tables, but gradually I'm going to get rid of everything in here, with the exception of, like I said before, this big table, the lazy boy, and the couch. Those will be the only pieces of modern furniture that I have in here. Everything else is going to be handmade. So that's what I'm trying to achieve up here, and use, you know, skills and I guess talent, if you want to call it that, to see what I can do. You know, and if I build it and I don't like it, I don't have to use it. You know, I can just break it down and burn it. When I went to the fabric store, which is about 40 miles away, I also had a question about that too. Where did I get the curtain material? It was in a fabric store that was about 40 miles from here, and they had just any type of fabric that you can think of in there. And I went in and I was looking around. You know, originally I was going to kind of go maybe with a light gray material, but when I seen that, you know, I don't know, it just brought me home, I guess. I thought, you know, I'm back there in the woods, and this color, or these colors, actually go all year round, because there's green in it, there's brown in it, and then all of the interior trim that I put up in here, it matches that. It's got the tree pattern, you know, and it's not so greenish camo that it just stands out in your face, you know, it's more subtle. But it would kind of tie everything in here, and it would kind of blend in, if you will, with everything that I've done in here. So when I seen those and the thickness of that material, I thought they'll last as long as that cabin does. I had to have them. So I went ahead and bought that bulk roll and then hired my cousin. He's made curtains before, not necessarily with that type of material, something much lighter, because he called me, told me, he said, this is almost like canvas. And but anyway, that material, it's going to last a long time, and certainly when I let them down, nobody's going to be looking through them because they're not sheer. They are thick and heavy duty, just like everything else I've done up here. But yeah, I was thinking that the women are going to say, you know, that is nothing but a man cave. Well, you know, man cave, if you will, it's kind of like a cabin, you know. People, we have 12 million people a year come through the Great Smoky Mountains, you know, and they pay big money to rent a place like this and stay in it, you know. So now I've got one that's all my own, and you know, I don't have that much invested in it, just like those curtain rod holders, you know, that I made. You know, just when I went and looked and checked on the price, I said, I'm not paying that, so I'll make some somehow. And I came home and I was walking around outside and I was thinking, you know, how in the world am I going to make these things? Because I was looking at those little metal holders that kind of look like you got your hand cupped out there that you set the rod over in. It's like $6 a piece. I thought, I've got to have 22 of those, and I'm not paying that. So I came home and I just happened to stand there and I was thinking about that cedar post, and I thought, well, I wonder if I whack 3 corners off and leave one a live edge and then cut them so thick and bore a hole in them, I could actually screw them to the framework up there and just run the rod through it, and there you go. Okay, just a little bit of thinking, a little bit of ingenuity, and a little bit of you know, it took me probably all day to cut that out, cut those pieces up, sand them down a little bit, you know, oil them up and stuff like that. But it's done, and they look really good hanging there. And I'll tell you what, they're not weak, they're strong. And it's easy to get the rod in and out, so, you know, I'm perfectly happy with those. I think it goes with everything else that I've done here. And having a lot of fun, you know, trying to think outside the box and what I can do and what I can make up here. Got another person that writes, another very good video. My wife and I like your custom curtains. Well, thank you. We also got snowed on here in Idaho, about 2 feet so far, winter wonderland. You know, I think it was 1993 when the last big snow that we've got, and every once in a while there'll be a freak snow that happens here that was 23 inches deep, and it snowed us in for 7 days actually. That was the first time that we had been without power for 7 days. We couldn't go anywhere because at that time I only had a 2-wheel drive, but it didn't make any difference because it had knocked down so many trees on the road. Actually, I think it was about the 5th day after it had snowed that the National Guard actually went around the county cutting trees so that people could actually get out, because it had overwhelmed the county municipality, you know, the road crew. They just, you know, when you have a whole county that's nothing but mountains and people stuck, not being able to go anywhere. Power company couldn't get through to work on power because of the trees. People couldn't get out to do anything because of the trees. So they actually had started clearing, I think it was about the 5th day. Now the 3rd day I was able to actually get the tractor out, and I was actually able to maneuver around trees. It had melted a little bit by the 3rd day, and of course the tractor sets up a lot higher, you know, from the ground. And I actually was able to get about halfway to the store, and I was just only going for bread and milk. But I started pushing a little bit of snow with the front grill of the tractor. Now this was just a 2-wheel tractor. It was a Ford 3000, and like I say, I made it halfway, and I started pushing snow, and then I got up to about 3 or 4 inches. But the thing is it was ice underneath the snow. And when I started pushing the snow, it started making the tractor come up off the ground, basically making it lighter, and then it got to the point where it didn't have any traction. It was just basically sitting on ice. So I did have a shovel with me. I had the forethought to take the shovel with me, and I basically cleared a spot about 100 feet or so, down enough where I wouldn't be pushing snow. The snow was still deep, but I was only concerned with where the grill was. And then I was able to pass that snowdrift and make my way to the store, got what I needed, and made my way back. But yeah, it was that was kind of fun trying to figure out, you know, actually the other house that I had built, I had a stove in there like this one, and we were able to cook on it. We cooked beans, actually cooked cornbread and things like that. We went to the bathroom in a 5-gallon bucket, and we had to melt snow to make coffee and stuff like that, because, you know, I could carry water, but you're talking about at least a half a mile. So we just melted snow. And honestly, if you've ever had melted snow in drinks and stuff like that, it doesn't taste that great, but, you know, it was coffee, and it tasted good on a cold day. But anyway, we made it through, but I'll never forget that. You know, a freak snow like that. And like I say, the trees. And you know what? Come to think about it, the only trees that were basically down were these yellow pine trees. There you go. Didn't even think about that. They had blocked, I mean, they were everywhere for a long time. You drive down the road, even in the summertime after this had happened, and you see those trees sticking out of the woods, laying at the edge where the bank would come down to meet the road, and you see those trees sawed off there for the longest time. Now, of course, that's almost 30 years later, right? Let's see, 203, 13, yeah, almost 30 years ago. And here still today, you can see some of them when you go down the road, but they were everywhere. Trees were down everywhere, and people were actually, you know, hemmed in, stuck, couldn't go anywhere. Anyway, guys, you know, I could go on and on, but I certainly do appreciate you stopping by. Hope everyone has a great afternoon. You all take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.